What's up, folks? Welcome to Chasing Tech. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about how social media is being shaped by Web3 and all the predictions that come with that. Now, if you're new to the channel, welcome. On this channel, we dive into future technologies and how they impact life in various different ways, whether it's our health, our happiness, and anything that has to do with business. Here we just get to the bottom of how technology is shaping the future because it is changing at such a fast rate that only is getting faster and faster every single day. So when it came to doing research on social media, and I'm going to call this social media 3.0 because everybody's throwing around that term, Web 3.0. And I figure if we're talking about social media overlaid on top of Web 3.0, let's just call it social media 3.0. And my one disclaimer before we go super deep in this is that I am by no means an expert on Web3 or social media. This is just my perspective on some of the research I did, and I am going to be leaning on some resources that I came across while doing this research. So with all that being said, there's three main portions of this video. First one is, why do humans love social media so much? I think it's really important to understand why humans love social media, because those are going to be the driving forces in social media 3.0 and what that actually ends up translating into, because humans are going to relatively stay the same. The technology that is used to amplify social media is what is going to change, and we need to understand how those things interact together. The second thing I wanted to talk about as well in this video is about the core elements of Web 3.0, and we'll be diving into some of the principles that will be shaping the future of social media because of these principles. And then lastly, we're going to intersect those first two sections to come up with our own predictions about what social media 3.0 is shaping out to be. Let's get started. So why do humans love social media so much? If you look at the numbers, there's 2.9 billion users on Facebook, 1.5 billion users on Instagram, and almost 500,000 users on Twitter as of January in 2022. What is it that we have these social media platforms that are in fact larger than the biggest countries in the world and are so popular amongst society that they have become this size? Well, I think this all stems from why people actually go on social media and what they're looking to get, and why social media happens to be such a rich environment filled with these things that humans crave and seek. And the way I started to look at this was diving into viral content. Because if you think about viral content is the content that is being viewed and liked and commented on by the highest number of people. And when we think of it this way, this means that this is the prime content that is the reason people go on these platforms. And if you think about it, why wouldn't it be so popular if it wasn't fulfilling certain needs or cravings that people have when they go on social media in the first place? So what I did was I dug into this book called Contagious, and it's written by a researcher who basically dove into what makes content go viral online, and they broke it down into 6 principles that make content go viral. First one is social currency. So this means that we share things that make us look good, whether it's something we accomplished or something we are doing. We share things that make us look good on social media, and social media is the easiest way to accomplish that goal. Number 2 is triggers. So the way I'm interpreting this is when there's something that's top of mind that you're already thinking about, or is a current event that's really popular, this is just some type of content that relates to that. And we all as humans, we just like to be in the know. It's part of our DNA, because if we don't stay in the know back hundreds of years ago, that could mean not knowing that the whole tribe was going to move villages and leave you behind. So triggers fulfill that need to just be in the know and be up to speed on the latest. Emotion is the third one. So when we have a certain emotion, to have an outlet to very quickly and easily share something with someone without having to do a whole lot of effort, you can literally pull out your phone. That fulfills a craving. Number 4 is public. So social media is very public. Obviously, there's ways to make it private, but being able to show and tell and grow a audience on social media is very attractive, because it creates this sense of progress that humans, I think, inherently crave. The next one is practical value. So this is news that people can use, and I've seen this on TikTok. I've seen this on Twitter. These are the two most popular platforms where I see this happening the most. But it's that the content being shared on there that gets really popular and goes really viral is stuff that people actually can use, whether it's a recipe or just an understanding about crypto or some new concept. Both of these platforms have a really good medium for people to gather really useful information in a really short period of time just by scrolling through. And then lastly, it's stories. And just as humans, we really gravitate towards stories. There's something about them that just captivate us and bring us in and draw us closer because it's a form of entertainment. And when we think of social media, a lot of people immediately think of this aspect, which is the entertainment aspect. Okay, now that we laid that foundation on why people are so attracted to social media and how it fulfills all these different cravings and desires, we're going to dive into an article that I came across that was written by this guy named David Phelps. And the article was titled 13 Principles of Web3. And I thought it was super useful. I actually looked around for a little bit trying to find something like this until I stumbled across this article. And David just does a really good job of breaking down some of these really new and foreign concepts into something that's really simple to understand. So we're going to use a lot of his article to explain some of these principles of Web3 and then overlay those into social media. And by the way, I'm not going to go through all 13 because I don't think they all apply to social media. I'm just pulling the top ones that I think are most relevant. So the first one that I pulled was how value compensation can happen at the micro level. A lot of talk has been happening about NFTs and cryptocurrency, and I'm, again, no expert in this field, but these new technologies unlock the ability for people to get rewarded for micro actions. If you think about how economics have worked so far in life, we trade hours for money, we trade days for money, we trade big long projects that take a month or even a couple hours for money. And what NFTs and a lot of the blockchain technology is unlocking for society is the ability to get paid for micro value that we add into an environment. I think this is really cool because it means that the a way that people are compensated on social media is what value are they adding. And of course there's a lot to figure out there, but I think it's really interesting and new and something important to understand. But David says Web3 is about value going to those who create it. At a Web3 bar, the musicians, poets, and sure ladies on ladies' night would capture the value they generate. And again, membership becomes an investment. Okay, so how does this translate to social media? Well, this means that value compensation can happen at the micro level. So, whereas right now, social media companies, they're really the ones that make all the money. They run an ad to you, they're profiting, and maybe the business that you buy from is profiting as well. But that company is paying Facebook or YouTube money to be able to run ads to you. And there is no sort of compensation that goes back to the community, except for on platforms like YouTube and TikTok have started to do a little bit more of this, where they actually pay creators for their content. And the way I see this transitioning is into more of a creators and social media company compensation package where social media companies split the profits with creators 50-50 and maybe even more as the power of the user grows in Web3. But we've already started to see a little bit of this on TikTok. I've heard that they actually split 50-50 with creators. YouTube does a good job of this where they pay creators ad revenue on their videos. And I think we're going to see more and more trends like that move into play while social media becomes more about the user getting compensated for the value they're creating. The next one is collective ownership. So David says Web3 is about the power of collective ownership. A Web3 gallery would be owned by artists who promote each other. Their NFTs would be badges of philanthropic giving and tickets to events, further increasing value. So the key here is that people own as opposed to entities own. And the way that this is unlocked is just, again, through technologies that allow us to track ourselves and our identities and the value that we add to an environment in a digital way. So when we look at some of the implications on social media, will big tech companies still own social media, or will it be a collective ownership where the people that make up that social media platform all have some stake in that social media platform? So as opposed to Facebook having control over the 2.9 billion people that are on the platform, there would actually be some control that the people on Facebook have over decisions that are made for Facebook. And even on this content right now, there might even be a way for the content that I'm referencing, right? This article that David Phelps wrote, or some of the ideas I borrowed from the Contagious book that researcher wrote, they would get some sort of royalty perhaps, or own some sort of stake in the content that I'm creating right now because they contributed in a sense by sharing their ideas that led to me to be able to create this video. Okay, the next one is community governments. So Web3 is about community governance. A Web3 sports team would be owned by fans who would make decisions about drafts and trades and make bets with other teams by staking tokens. Another quick example of this is Facebook owning Facebook groups today would change. That means that in social media 3.0, the community might be owned by its members or even the creator of the community, and the control over the community would then shift into the hands of the community itself as opposed to Facebook. So the ability for the users to decide what type of content is posted, how it's monetized, all these little facets that right now Facebook controls will then shift into the community itself. And I think this is where it gets really interesting because right now, and it's been a hot topic, right now social media companies are tasked with this really difficult challenge of moderating content, deciding what is proper and what is not proper to belong on these platforms. And what this also unlocks is if the social media platform no longer owns the community, that means that the users own the community and they have to decide how to moderate the community. And that gets really interesting and really hairy really quick. So I'm really curious to see how that shift happens as well. Another key principle of Web3 is learn to earn. David says Web3 is about learn to earn so that anyone can pursue education, can work, and can work in meaningful ways. A Web3 book club lets people learn Web3 by taking classes through DAOs, which are decentralized autonomous organizations, and participating in decentralized autonomous organizations and getting paid for it. So I really like this one because it tied back to some of the core principles on why humans love social media. And one of those principles was practical value. That means news people can use. And in social media 3.0, we're already seeing where YouTube and TikTok are monetizing content and allowing creators to get paid for content just for adding value. And they bring in practical value to the audience and therefore have some sort of compensation for it. This is pretty much just educational content, but on a micro level. So as opposed to a course at a university being really full and rich with information and very focused on a specific topic, social media content can be informative, but on a very microscopic level. And David's argument is that there would be a way to be paid to learn content as well. So I guess the way this would work is you would learn something, you would apply it, or maybe you would share that value, and that would create some sort of value in the market or on the platform, and then you would get paid for your value creation. Maybe it's in the form of ad revenue being shared or some sort of currency system on the platform that rewards people who get the most engagement or create the best results. Another really cool one that I saw in this article was owning your own data. So I've seen this tons and tons of times over and over again that Web3 is about owning our data. A Web3 Facebook would let us monetize from our data because we own it. We can then share or hide it across platforms. Sovereign data is the next step after sovereign finance. So what David really means there is he's saying sovereign finance I'm interpreting as the crypto boom. And right now, a lot of people are adopting cryptocurrency. There's also going to be a similar boom when it comes to data. People are going to demand that they have control over their data, how it's used, where it's used, when it's used, and have that ability to decide what happens with it. And when it is used, being compensated as if it was your own property or asset that you were loaning out to somebody in order to allow them to do some sort of a job. So just like David says, that would mean that we could get paid for letting Facebook use our age or our gender to run an ad at us. Some manifestations I see of this are getting paid to watch ads. They say time is money. You could share the profit with Facebook for ads that you watch. Data ownership means data control. So you get to decide what data is available on any platform that you want because that's just how things are done in a Web3 social media platform. Decentralized creation. So David says that Web3 is about decentralization, which I agree. Specifically, decentralized creation. A Web3 Disney is crowdsourced, crowd-built, crowd-credentialed, and crowd-funded. And creators get paid whenever anyone monetizes their creation. And I think this is so cool because it combines a lot of these elements of business that allow people to really be incentivized and rewarded in accordance with the value they're creating. It has been shifting over the last 100 years, but the ability for an average person to experience an opportunity was a lot lower because there were a lot of dependencies on capital. There was a lot of dependencies on access to the right people who can help you accomplish a goal. But having a decentralized creation process means that everyone can get rewarded for their fair share of work in the environment, and the money aspect can even be solved by the crowd as well. So the future of creation is a group effort that collaborates, and I see this happening again on social media where content might be in collaboration with other creators, and that leads to each of those creators getting paid in proportion to the value that they're creating in that piece of content. So very, very specific detail. And again, some more conclusions that we can draw on this. Creators get paid more on ad-based platforms. Creators keep people on the platform so they get the value that comes from that. And then making a meme and getting paid royalties. I know this has been a hot topic I've seen online where people make memes and they go viral by someone else posting it who maybe already has a following, and that person who made the meme never gets credit. So smart contracts are one of the technologies that would enable content to be shared and for the original creator of that content to get paid. All right, folks, in summary now, we've kind of gone through some of the principles of Web3, how I think those impact social media 3.0. And here's some predictions and trends that I'm seeing as a result. We see content creation becoming more of a career, people getting paid for content, little micro content that they make. We see social media platforms being governed by its users. We see content consumers getting compensated for time spent on social media. We see data privacy and control is emphasized, and we see social media continues to be a place of learning. Thanks for watching.